Hey everybody, this is Megadeth here. I am not back on, uploading videos and going live and all that stuff. I am not. This is just a video just talking about the new Resident Evil game. You see, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is not the first Resident Evil to go first person view. No, it is not. If you guys are saying it is not the first Resident Evil game to go first person view. If you go back to 1999 to 1998, Resident Evil Capcom brought out the very first Resident Evil game in first person ever in the Resident Evil series, and it's called Resident Evil Survivor. So if you look at Resident Evil Survivor, if you look back at 1998 to 1999 when Resident Evil first came out, because Resident Evil is the remake of Sweet Home. Sweet Home is probably, I think, one of the best horror games that Capcom, remade. And I love Capcom. I love the Resident Evil series. Every single one except RE7 Biohazard. RE7 it's not scary, it's not that good. It's just, it's a test subject for the new Resident Evil engine. So when I saw the gameplay to like a alpha beta to the Resident Evil Village gameplay, and when they were talking about it, announcing it and that stuff, it just takes me back to Resident Evil 4. It just takes me back to the concept of Resident Evil 4, because Resident Evil 4 starts you out in a village. And this is starting you out in a village, just in first-person view, and a different character, with Resident Evil 7's character. To me, it's the remake of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 8 Village is just a mere copy, but a better copy of Resident Evil 4. This is my opinion, guys. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't care. Resident Evil Village. Yeah, it would be a great game. It would be a great game on its own terms. Not a mere copy of the Resident Evil 4, when it was going to first come out. Because when it first would be coming out for Resident Evil 4, it would be more scarier and on the, supernatural kind of way. Because if you look up Resident Evil 4 before Resident Evil 4, it would show you Leon would be fighting against like demonic dolls, ghosts, goblins, and all that stuff. But no, they changed the way for Resident Evil 4, where he's facing a new bioweapon. That's what these Resident Evil games are. Bioweapon games. Survivors surviving bioweapons. Changing up the bioweapon format and bringing back the scariness, it's fine. I don't mind that. I'm just saying Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, it's not scary. It is not good. It's just a mere test subject for the new Resident Evil engine that Capcom is using for these new Resident Evil games. Look at the remake of Resident Evil 2. That is a mere good simulation of the RE engine. That's why I love Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 is my baby. Resident Evil 2 is the very first Resident Evil game I've ever played and beaten in one sitting on one story. The next day, I went on to Claire's story. I started out on Claire Redfield's storyline when I first played Resident Evil 2 when I was young in one sitting. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I just looked and I was really surprised on how good and fast I did on Resident Evil 2. I still play Resident Evil 2 on my PS3. So, the remake of Resident Evil 2 is good. I love the premise of the situation that Leon and Claire is going through on Resident Evil 2's remake. Changing the map layout, the puzzles layout, the enemies layout, changing the way Mr. X comes out at you is perfect. He doesn't come out in scenario B. He comes out in scenario A and B in the remake. I love it. That makes Resident Evil 2 one of the most scariest Resident Evil games I've ever played. And trust me, I've played almost every single Resident Evil game out there. Even a mere copy of the Resident Evil game. Like Dino Crisis. Look at Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis is one of the most popular and demanding remake game ever. For the Resident Evil fans, they want the Dino Crisis games to be remade. Just like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3. But the thing is, let me tell you guys something about Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Yes, it came out first before Code Veronica. Yes. But thing is, they were working on Code Veronica before Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. So you can say that Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is the actual 3. No, it's not. It's just a mere copy of Resident Evil 2, but in the streets with Jill Valentine and Nemesis chasing her and all that stuff. So Code Veronica is the mere sequel. It's the actual sequel of Resident Evil 2. So I'm going off track. Resident Evil 8, what I think about it, I don't like it. I'm sorry, guys. I do not like Resident Evil Village. I don't like how the story is and all that stuff. I knew that Chris Redfield is going to be like a bad guy on the new Resident Evil because the way he was acting on Resident Evil 6 and that stuff. Making a 6-foot vampire lady as the main antagonist towards for the protagonist, Ethan White, that's not a good idea. It's not. I know they're changing the ways for Resident Evil, but I don't like the change of the ways of Resident Evil. Resident Evil is supposed to be about bioweapons, like corporations making bioweapons and spreading the bioweapons out there and that stuff. Do not change the premise of Resident Evil. Don't. Don't change it. If you're going to change the premise of Resident Evil, don't call it Resident Evil. Call it a new name. Okay? Call it a new name. I don't know what you should call it, but call it a new name. Resident Evil is more on the survival horror, like surviving a zombie apocalypse kind of way. RE8 Village is more on the Castlevania side, you know? Because Castlevania is more on the mythological creatures like werewolves, the mummy, Frankenstein, Dracula, vampires, all that stuff. But putting Resident Evil in that genre, it's not a good idea. To me, it's not a good idea. To you guys, for the people that haven't played the original Resident Evils, might say it's a good idea. I don't know what I'm talking about. Shut up and all that stuff. I don't care. Free country. I'm going to say what I want to say. Resident Evil 8 Village is more of a Castlevania premise. It is. And it's a mere copy of Resident Evil 4. So, if you guys like it, that's fine. And go right ahead and play the hell out of that game. Like it, play the demo, play it all the time. All you like. Me, I'm not gonna play it. It doesn't look good for me, and to me, it's not a Resident Evil game. It's a Castlevania first-person shooter game. So, that's what I think about Resident Evil Village. It's not good. It's not good for me. So, the Resident Evil series, like I said, it's a zombie-filled apocalyptic world where you, the player, play as these famous characters like Leon Scott Kennedy, Claire Redfield, Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Billy Cohen, Rebecca Chambers, Carlos Oliveira, and all those guys. Those are my Resident Evils. The new ones, 7 and 8, they're not Resident Evil to me. They're not. Yeah, 7 is, an actual Resident Evil where you, the player, go to a redneck hillbilly estate where you have to save your wife or girlfriend from these hillbillies, and them being infected by this new virus, and you have to kill them just to save the girl that you love, and make a vaccine of the virus to save either one of the girls. That's a cool premise. I like that selection. It brings you back to Resident Evil 3 Nemesis on that section. But the whole storyline is just weak. A new character, I don't know who he is. I don't know who he works for, what corporation he's working for, if he's a freelancer or, just a civilian going out there to get his girlfriend or wife. I don't know. So, like I said, the Resident Evil series I grew up on because the very first Resident Evil game I did play Resident Evil on the Sega Genesis. That's the first Resident Evil game, but I did not get a chance to play all of the game and beat it. I just stopped towards the ending and I just went back onto my Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit 2 on the Sega Genesis or something like that. But years later, when the PS1 came out, or the PS2 came out, or the PS3 came out, I went back on Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil 1, and I did beat it. For the remake of Resident Evil 1, it's okay. I like the new stuff to it, like Lisa Trevor coming out, attacking you, and all that stuff. That's cool. She's mentioned in the files of the original, and you don't see her at all in the original. And I love how they brought her out in the remake. I love it. But the whole thing about, burning the zombies, keeping them dead and all that stuff, and if you don't burn them, they come back as Crimson Heads. That's just weak. It's weak. It's not that good because you're just going back and forth with the kerosene and lighter that's taking up your inventory as Jill and just, burning every single body so they don't come back. But if they would put infinite amount of kerosene in that little thing, yeah, it would be a great idea, but it's just limited. You only have 2 drops of kerosene in your little carrying thing, and you have to go back like 3 or 4 times to a save station or where the kerosene bottle is. You have to refill it, and you have to remember where that zombie body is and go back to that room or hallway or dining room and burn the body. It's a great idea. It is. It's a great idea because it's mostly what real life would be like if a zombie apocalypse really did happen. If you don't shoot the zombies' heads off or chop their heads off, they will come back as Crimson Heads, way more dangerous. It's a good premise. I like it. But I like how you can just, when the zombies go down, they bleed out. You see like a pile of blood coming out of the bodies. That means, oh, they're dead. That's why I like the original Resident Evil game more than the remake of the first one. The remake of the second one is really, really good. I love the remake of the second Resident Evil game because I grew up on the Resident Evil 2. That's the very first Resident Evil game I have beaten out of all of the Resident Evils. What? Okay. Anyways, Resident Evil 2 Remake is really awesome. I love it. I love how they changed plant zombies, because the original 2's plant zombies are so ridiculous to look at. But the remake of the 2's plant zombies are phenomenally scary. I love it. The remake of Resident Evil 3 is not that good. It's too short. Nemesis only has what, two two forms from his first form. Yeah, two forms, and no, they're not that good. I don't play Free Fire. I don't. So stop asking me that. Um, and taking out the park level and um, the clock tower level from the original, and not putting them in the remake, and making the remake of 3 shorter than the original is not a good idea. It's not. If they added those 2 um, levels and kept in the Gravedigger's worm boss, um, that would be a great remake right there. You know, bring back the Gravedigger, bring back the what you call it, the clock tower, bring back the park levels for the remake of Resident Evil 3, then yes, it would be a great remake. But it's not a great remake. It's too short, and it's mostly too easy. If you play it on the hardest difficulty, it's mostly too easy. Um, but the thing is, Resident Evil 3 is a bonus mission for Resident Evil 2, because RE3 is not the actual Resident Evil 3. Code Veronica is the actual Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is just a DLC campaign for Resident Evil 2. And they didn't bring out, DLCs back then when PlayStation 1 came out and that stuff. It's a DLC campaign for Resident Evil 2 with a different character and a different monster and a different location. Code Veronica is a great, great Resident Evil sequel for Resident Evil 2. I love Resident Evil Code Veronica, and that's it. Code Veronica is one of my favorites. It's not because Code Veronica have Claire Redfield. It's because it's the actual sequel to Resident Evil 2, and I love the storyline on Resident Evil Code Veronica. I love it. What else is there? Oh, Dead Aim. Resident Evil Dead Aim. What can I say about that? What can I say about that? It's mostly what you call it, a oh, I forgot what it's called. Not a preview. Um, Not a prequel. mm, I can't remember what it's called, but Resident Evil Dead Aim is on a Freightliner. Same thing goes for Resident Evil Revelations 1. So, Resident Evil Revelations 1 um, is on a Freightliner, and it's mostly the same way for, Dead Aim. And Dead Aim, I love Dead Aim because you get to use a light gun for Dead Aim. So, yeah. Um, Outbreak, those are just, online multiplayer for Resident Evil 2 and 3 because they have the same premise and the same creatures of for from Resident Evil 2 and 3. Um, I can't remember which other ones I have played. Resident Evil 5, it's not a sequel to 4 because they don't really talk about what happened on 4. They mention some stuff from 4, but excuse me, they don't really mention any, details from Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is Resident Evil, yeah, it's the actual Resident Evil 4 because it's the sequel of Resident Evil Code Veronica. But the thing is, Leon didn't go to Rockford Island to save Claire. Chris Redfield went to go to save his sister on Rockford Island because Claire sent out a message to Leon Scott Kennedy, but Leon Scott Kennedy was pretty much busy with his duties, his job as the president's, protector on the Secret Service. And so Leon contacted Chris Redfield and let him know that his sister is on Rockford Island and he has to go and save him, save her. And yeah, I think that's about it, guys. That's about it. Like I said, Resident Evil 8 Village is not that great. It's not, to me, it's more on the Castlevania kind of premise, on the Castlevania identity. So, yeah, these new Resident Evils that's in first person, they're not Resident Evil at all to me. They're just, scary games trying to be Resident Evil. I mean, first person shooters trying to be Resident Evil. So, if you guys like it, that's fine. Good for you guys. But don't ask me to, play Resident Evil 8 because I am not going to play Resident Evil 8. No. Even if I do get a PS5 or PS4, I am not going to play Resident Evil 8, guys. So, yeah. All that said, thanks for watching, guys. Bye.